Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. My name is Chris Allen and I'm co-founder and chief of sales here at Lansweeper. In this session, we'll be taking a look into the world of software licensing, exploring why it's crucial for organizations across the world to manage effectively, and how Lansweeper's integration with Lansweeper changes the status quo with a better together approach. Whilst the session plan was to focus on Microsoft, we've broadened the scope as these same problems are persistent in other software vendors, which this integration solves. To address the elephant in the room, yes, this is a pre-recorded session. Unfortunately, we had to do the day prior to the allotted Lansweeper webinar. We apologise we couldn't attend live. However, with the added benefit of editing, we hope this presentation stays valuable yet concise. For our session today, the agenda will cover what software licensing is and why it's important to customers and partners, so we're making sure we're starting from the same page. Next, we'll delve into what problems customers and partners alike face and the pitfall of traditional solutions in the market. Then lastly, we'll wrap things up discussing the future of licensing analysis with Lansweeper and Licenseware, going from ITAM 1.0 to ITAM 2.0. All right, so let's kick things off. What is software licensing? A software license is a legal agreement that provides legally binding conditions for the use and distribution of software. To a lot of people, however, it's that boring long bit of text you skip through and accept before you can actually use the software you're installing. Unbeknownst to them, however, there's an entire industry built on the back of reading and comprehending those terms, understanding all of the nuances, whilst ensuring they are adhered to in a cost-effective manner, both to reduce overspend on software, whilst actually managing and maintaining the risk in terms of compliance. The task at hand, however, is a challenge in its own right. The contracts you see on our slide at the moment are vast and complex to say the least, dictating in which circumstances the software can be used. Adding to this, licensing terms vary between software vendors and can change often, typically on a yearly and sometimes even monthly basis, where both the previous versions and the new versions need understanding, depending on what software you have deployed and their governing contracts. That being said, we can summarize that the rules are often built to scale license fees along with the perceived value of the product based on certain metrics. These metrics vary and have changed over time, where some are easier than others to understand. As an example of the introduction of user-based licensing in software as a service products, a user requires a license and that license needs to provide them with the required functionality. However, most enterprise solutions today are based on compute infrastructure, where the license fee is proportional to the expected business value of the underlying compute the software can utilize. This includes, but is not limited to, variables like core count, virtualization methods, operating systems, clustering, high availability setups, disaster recovery, and more, where the underlying infrastructure and its controls dictate the license requirements of the software deployed on it. Based on this, a typical licensing assessment can be broken down into four, or potentially three parts. Data, discovering the required data in terms of software deployment and scope, and the underlying infrastructure it's deployed on, within the context of the licensing terms, of course. Using Microsoft as an example, which machines have Windows or SQL Server installed on them? What versions and editions are they? Which of those machines are virtual machines? And what are the associated core counts, high availability rules, so on and so forth. Next, we've got licensing, understanding the licensing rules regarding the deployed software and scope. So what are the licensing rules around Windows Server or SQL Server? The contracts in place, so have they been purchased under an enterprise agreement or an MPSA or a CSP? And then lastly, the owned entitlement, aka what does the customer already own in terms of licenses? Lastly, we have the analysis piece, so combining the software, the hardware, and the licensing data together to ascertain the licensing position of the given environment. It's important to note that this slide shows the basics and the fundamentals of most licensing engagements. There are other nuances to consider, however, this is at the heart of most of the engagements to understand your software license position. So I've explained what software licensing is and how you can ascertain overspend or non-compliance, but why is software license management actually important? Simply put, cost and risk. The software market is estimated at $600 billion and growing, where 250 billion of that is enterprise software, all of which needs managing. Organizations need to ensure they are purchasing the right software under optimal contracts and in the right quantities to ensure cost optimization and return on investment for their software estate. Equally, they need to ensure they are compliant with the licensing terms to minimize risk in terms of compliance, as software vendors often withhold the right to audit organizations for non-compliant usage, which can often end in expensive settlements, lengthy audit processes, or even legal action. Typically, organizations have 10 to hundreds of thousands of software titles deployed in their environment. However, to help balance risk versus cost, they tend to focus their efforts on the top vendors in terms of cost to the business, and risk in terms of compliance. Additionally to this, there are a number of additional aspects to consider, such as security, being able to identify vulnerable or disallowed software within an environment, productivity, unifying the software portfolio for a consistent and scalable approach, forecasting and finance, being able to understand software spend better and in detail, adds for a better budget management process, and much more. This practice is commonly known as software asset management, or SAM for short, focused purely on managing and optimizing the use of software assets within an organization from procurement through to retirement. Mature and more successful internal or external SAM practices are typically made up of three main components. People, where there is a team of dedicated and skilled professionals to ensure compliance with software licensing agreements. They track and manage software assets and provide guidance and support to other departments within the organization. There's processes, where well-defined structured processes are used to manage the procurement, deployment, retirement, and resale of software assets. These processes need to be integrated with other IT practices as well, such as IT service management and IT financial management, to ensure that the organization is utilizing its resources effectively. And then lastly, we have technology. Software asset management requires accurate and up-to-date data on software assets, with detail on what is deployed in an environment and the relevant hardware details required for license analysis. There are many ITAM tools in the market that cater to this specifically, providing both the data requirements along with the analysis and some ITAM functions. However, these tools actually come with their own issues. So we just described the solution in software asset management, right? Wrong. Whilst there is generic methodology, organizations globally still face significant challenges when it comes to managing their software licensing estate. Deloitte recently published a new report just earlier this week detailing some great examples supporting this. More than half of their survey respondents are specifically concerned about the lack of visibility in terms of IT assets that they have in their estate. There was a 200% increase in those requiring managed services to deliver ITAM requirements, and 80% of the respondents required third-party resources to deliver ITAM requirements as well. These are just 3 points from a much larger report published only this week, and there are more examples, countless examples of problems still existing in the market. So, how are your customers addressing their problems, and what problems do these solutions have? So these are the three most common solutions and their pitfalls. Professional services, where customers acquire external expertise to deliver managed or ongoing services, which are typically delivered via manually intensive work. These are costly and time-consuming services for both the partner delivering them and the customer procuring them. Manual labor is inconsistent and equally difficult to balance in terms of scale, ensuring resources are available for new customers as they come on board, whilst being utilized effectively to achieve a decent return on investment in terms of the partner. Next, you've got ITAM tooling. Traditional ITAM tools boast to be the be-all and end-all solutions, taking a one-size-fits-all approach, accomplish everything. Unfortunately, these solutions are often costly, requiring a significant deployment and services overhead, only to end up being underutilized in comparison to the actual problems the customer wishes to solve. And with this generic approach, it also often comes with a lack of focus where required in terms of things like discovery capabilities and the analysis as well. These solutions can be fit for purpose with the right investment and time. However, for a lot of organizations, it does not provide a good return on investment with the value received. Lastly, customers can look to manage this internally. Unfortunately, good talent is few and far between and is sourced from the same talent pool the partners hunt in, making resources expensive and short of supply. Training from within is equally as difficult to do due to the lack of resources available in the market to train. The time required to do so, the cost required to do so, and the constantly changing landscape when it comes to licensing with a never-ending education. Heading back to the typical analysis fundamentals we touched upon earlier, most organizations are utilizing generic ITAM tooling combined with human resource, either internally or outsourced, to deliver ever more complex licensing analysis, which cannot scale nor cater to the needs of a modern software-driven company. Looking at ITAM 2.0, however, taking a best-of-breed approach, utilizing paramount discovery solutions within Lansweeper to generate all of the required information faster than ever before for licensing analysis, combined with Lanceware, a data analysis engine specifically designed to automate the license analysis component of the process. A licensing requirement analysis can be completed at a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the time versus these traditional methods mentioned. To summarize, the shift in status quo is actually a best-in-breed approach, utilizing solutions developed for a specific purpose, not only reducing costs and time to partners and customers, as you're only paying for and using the functions you really need, but also providing paramount functionality to ensure the problem is addressed correctly. Lansweeper is dedicated to developing technology that provides clear and accurate data of an IT environment for a myriad of use cases. Lanceware is dedicated to developing technology that analyzes said data to provide value in terms of software licensing. Together, this enables partners to deliver the next generation of software licensing services to their customers at a fraction of the previous cost and time for both parties being the customer as well as the partner. As mentioned at the start, whilst the aim of this webinar was originally set to be focused on automated Microsoft analysis, hopefully the information till now explains how the same logic can be applied for other vendors, which are also covered in the Lanceware and Lansweeper partnership, as Lansweeper collects all the required information for Microsoft analysis amongst other vendors, such as Adobe, Oracle Java, Red Hat, VMware, and more. However, for the sake of the remainder of this session, we will focus on Microsoft licensing and show you how easy it is to deliver licensing services based on our combined offering. To start, Microsoft is one of the most utilized enterprise softwares globally. However, whilst their success is clear, their licensing terms are far from the case, making them one of the most common software vendors to focus on in software asset management. Utilizing the power of the cloud, Lanceware is able to ingest raw Lansweeper data and apply all the required licensing logic against it, taking into account software versions, the additions, hardware core counts, virtualization, clustering, and more, processing 50 devices per second to automate the licensing analysis process to determine the licensing requirements of a given environment. You can then combine that with the customer's entitlement to get an effective license position faster than ever before. This can be done in two methods. One, you can upload data exported from a Lansweeper's custom report function, where the report templates can be found on our website. Simply copy and paste the report template into Lansweeper, export the CSV data out, and then drag and drop it onto the Lanceware platform. Alternatively, you can establish an API connection with the Lansweeper Cloud to pull the data in real time. These methods are great for either facilitating one-off projects or a recurring basis dependent on the customer requirements for ad hoc or managed services. The setup is super simple and can be completed in a couple of minutes, as we'll show you in the following two demos.
Welcome to our quick demo on how to set up the API connection between Lansweeper Cloud and Lanceware.
Please note we're in the process of updating how you establish an API connection with Lansweeper to make it even easier.
First, within Lanceware, ensuring you are in the correct project, head to the Integrations tab to obtain your allowed callback URL. Copy this for use in a moment. Next, heading to your Lansweeper Cloud, head to the Settings section. Developer Tools. All Applications, then select Add New Application. On the pop-up, ensure Cloud Application is selected, then click Continue. Name the application what you wish. We recommend using the name Lanceware API, then paste the allowed callback URL obtained from Lanceware earlier into the allowed callback URL field. Next, under the Integration field, search and select Lanceware before clicking Add Application. At this point, your secret credentials will be downloaded locally. We recommend destroying these once the setup has been completed. Next, open the newly created application in the Applications section and click Authorize. A new tab will open asking which sites to provide API connection with. Choose those relevant and click Allow. This will then redirect you to Lanceware, where the one-time code field has now been populated on the integration page. It's important now to use this new tab for the remaining steps. To finalize the connection, open the credentials file previously downloaded with a text editor, and then copy your client ID and client secret into their respective fields before clicking Save to finalize the setup. To pull data from Lansweeper into Lanceware, Simply toggle the app connections beneath depending on your requirements to begin pulling the data. To find out more or to get started, please reach out to your Lansweeper or Lansweeper representative. Thank you.
In this demo, we'll show you how to quickly gather the required data from Lansweeper and upload it to Lansweeper in order to calculate the Microsoft licensing requirements. Once logged into Lansweeper, head to the report function and click Create Report. Here, custom SQL queries can be run against the database for custom reporting. We provide 3 queries to be run and saved which contain all the required information for Microsoft analysis. These queries can be found in our support documentation. Per query provided, copy and paste the text as shown, give it a title, click Save As and name the report accordingly. The software inventory query extracts all relevant software inventory data with individual identifiers and software details across the estate. Next, the hardware query extracts hardware data including an individual identifier per device with detailed device information such as processors, cores, virtualization and more. Lastly, the installed software query ties all device keys and software keys together to associate the records. Once done, the reports can be run and exported. Once you've exported the files, it's vital that you rename them to match the names we had given the original query files to satisfy our validation process. To conduct the actual analysis, just activate the Microsoft Deployment Manager app, drag and drop the files in and click Process. For more information regarding the Microsoft Deployment Manager app, please head to licenceware.io/MDM. Thank you. We've asked the deck to be circulated accordingly so you can find these demos again. Alternatively, you can find them on our YouTube channel. In terms of setup, this is how you can harness the power of Lansweeper data and process it via Licenceware to calculate a customer's Microsoft licensing requirements and effective license position. Once the data is processed, the Licenceware application shows a significant amount of insights and value, so you can help the customer identify cost savings and mitigate risk with a much higher return on investment in comparison to their other options. All Licenceware reports can be exported and packaged into deliverables, providing value back to the customer faster than ever before, with the partner's look and feel attached to it. As mentioned, we're expanding our lineup in terms of product coverage, catering to things like Oracle Java, Adobe, VMware, and more, where we build hyper-focused analysis applications that turn customers' software and hardware deployment data into licensing insights in minutes, not days. Hopefully you found this session helpful in how we're combining Lansweeper with Licenceware for a better together, best of breed approach to drive value, retention, and pipeline for you and your customers. For more information about partner benefits, how to get started, commercial offerings, along with target audiences and more, please feel to reach out to me directly. My email is chris@licenceware.io. Alternatively, you can find my calendar link in the deck or webinar chat to book in a call directly. Unfortunately, as this is a pre-recorded webinar, I can't answer any questions. However, if you do have any, please note them down and we can discuss them when we speak. Thank you very much.